What's up, guys? This is Colin with Kingdom Culture Counseling. I am a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida, and today we're going to be looking at the question, why do couples fight? So a lot of this stuff we've been dealing with has been individual. So today we're getting to the marriage counseling aspect and trying to look at the system, because things get a little more complex when there's more than one person involved. So let's jump in and see what's going on. So the first thing you got to understand when you're dealing with a relationship, we're not talking about individual counseling. We are talking about a husband and a wife, a parent and a child, friendships, right? We're talking about relationships. People have needs, and this affects the relationship. So right now we're talking specifically about a husband and a wife. And it's important to understand that the husband has needs and the wife has needs. Now, I can't give you the needs for every single person. Everybody's a little bit different. However, there are certainly some things that men and women typically have for their needs. When we look at wives, typically they have a need for love. Right? That's what they're looking for from their husband. Now, husbands typically have a need for respect. Do wives want respect? Yes. Do husbands want respect? Yes. Do they want love? Yes. So I want to dive into a study real quick. So they asked 7,000 people this question. When you are in a conflict with your spouse, do you get into conflict because you feel disrespected or unloved? Now, for the men, 83% of the men said they felt disrespected. Now, when we looked at the women, 72% said they felt unloved, right? So there's a big difference there, right? Now, there's going to be women that feel disrespected and get into conflict, right? There's going to be men that feel unloved and get into conflict. But by and large, typically, there's this need for women to feel loved. There's this need for men to feel respected. That's not popular in our culture, right? And our culture looks at men having this need for respect, and they think that that's like domineering and chauvinistic. That's just a need that a lot of men have, and that's okay. And for wives, you need to understand this, that if you try to treat that need like he shouldn't have it, it's not going to go well in the marriage. Just like if a husband said, you really need to earn my love, you didn't act like this, this, and this, I'm not going to love you today. The same thing as if a wife says to her husband, I don't respect you. That's going to feel like for the woman if the man said, I don't love you, right? So this is a deep need for husbands. And I can't get too into this, we don't have enough time. But there is a book called Love and Respect. And it goes into these needs and it goes into this cycle. A lot of the stuff that I'm using is pulled from that. Emerson Eggerich, check it out. He's got some great videos as well. I'll put something in the description here so you can find out that book and maybe some of his videos. Watch that stuff. It's really helpful for marriage. I want to give you another study. So they looked at 400 males, and 74% of those males said that they would prefer to feel alone and unloved than to feel disrespected and inadequate. 74% said that. This is a deep need for husbands that's not talked about a lot. We talk a lot about love, but there's this need for unconditional respect. When our needs are in danger, we go into protective mode. This is fight or flight. I have a video on that. I'm going to put it up here. So fight or flight is this thing in our brain that kicks on, right? This is when we feel like there is a danger. And a lot of times we think of this in a physical sense, right? If there's an animal trying to get us, if we're being attacked, we go into this mode and you can't think very clearly, and that's good. We get impulsive because we need to think quickly and respond quickly. The problem is that part of our brain does not distinguish between emotional danger and physical danger. So this is where, if you think back to one of the fights that you've had with your spouse, you're yelling, things are heated, and you just start to say things that you typically wouldn't say. you start to act really irrationally. Maybe you throw things, maybe you punch walls, things that you wouldn't do normally, or maybe even thinking back, you're like, why would I say that? Right? And this is something that can be dangerous because the things that happen stay with us. Right? So if I get really angry and I get in that fight or flight mode and I say something to my wife that really cuts deep, she's going to remember that the next day. Even though I may not even remember it. I may think, well, I was just mad. I didn't really mean that. She's going to take that to heart. Okay, so remember, when we get in that mode, we do things that we might not normally do. Now, the third piece of this is that when we protect, our spouse feels in danger. So when my needs are not being met, I go into this mode, right? I have this fear that I'm not going to get the respect that I want and I deserve, and my walls go up, right? And so I start getting in that mode of protecting, and I start saying things, right? And doing things that are maybe not the way I typically act. And so for my wife, same thing happens. Her walls go up, she goes into protective mode because I'm starting to do things that make her feel like she's not very loved. And it starts this cycle, right? So I say something to my wife that might feel unloving, and she responds in a way that makes me feel disrespected, and I respond in a way that makes her feel unloved, and we get on this crazy cycle, right? So Emerson Eggerich calls this the crazy cycle. And it just goes and it gets worse and worse. And so the next video, we're going to be talking about how to deal with this cycle and how to deal with the fights that we get and how to get out of that conflict. But now I just want you to be super aware of why these things happen and this week, start thinking about why you are getting defensive. Why is your spouse getting defensive? Did you say something that might have caused her to feel unloved? Wives, have you said something that caused your husband to feel disrespected? Now I want to take a moment to say something, because what's important to understand is that we are individuals that are responsible for our actions. I can never say, well, I said that because she didn't meet my need of being respected. That's not my wife's problem, right? Now, she should try to meet that need because she cares for me. However, I'm responsible for what I do regardless of what my wife does. I can never blame what I do on my wife. And that's the danger with this. We want to be careful of that, right? I am responsible for me. Now, what's important to understand is that we are not dealing with an individual here. We are dealing with a couple, with a system. With more than one person in a relationship, things get a little tricky because what one person says doesn't always equal what the other person hears. So I may say something to my best friend, I may say something to my child or to my parent that is fine, but if I say that same thing to my wife, it changes, right? There's things that she is sensitive to that my dad is not sensitive to. There's things that she's sensitive to that I can say to my son because we have a different relationship, a different dynamic. And this doesn't make it easy that I am a man and she is a woman, because there's things that I can say to my guy friends that I cannot say to her. And there's things that her girlfriends can say to her that I cannot say to her, because it takes on a different meaning and it is interpreted a different way. Everything that we do sends a message, and we need to be super aware of the messages that we are sending in our relationships, specifically in our marriages. What's important to understand is that we get into conflicts based on how things are perceived, not how they are meant. So let me give you an example of this. Let's say that me and my wife get into an argument and I start feeling super angry, and because I love my wife, I think I need to remove myself from this situation because I'm about to do something really stupid. And I love her too much to stay here and get angry and start getting worked up and scare her. So I am going to go chill out and I'm going to go take a break. So for me, one of the ways that I chill out If I start noticing those warning signs of anger, I go for a walk. I go for a run. And so we're in the middle of an argument and I think, I love her. I'm getting out of here right now because I love her so much. And I put on my running shoes and I just walk out the door. And I say, hey, I'm going to chill out. I'm out of here, right? What message does that send, right? What I'm meaning is I love you, right? In my head, I'm trying to show her love. What do you think she hears when I do that? She hears, I don't even want to be around you right now. And then it cycles, right? I probably regret marrying you. You are the last person I want to see right now. You make me angry when I'm around you, when I look at you. And then it starts even getting deeper, like, you are worthless. Nobody wants to be around you, right? And you see how this thing that I intended to be loving actually came into her ear, that message, as I don't love her. Do you see that? And this is where it's not just an individual thing. This is where couples counseling is so helpful. And a lot of it is not just about our hearts being wrong. Sometimes our hearts are right and we're trying to do the right thing, but something happens from me to my wife. Something in there's a disconnect, and I need to learn how to understand my wife. Now let's do something on the flip side, okay? Let's say that my wife starts to feel anxious. And because she respects me so much and she loves me so much, she wants me to be by her side as much as possible. So she's laying in bed and I get up in the morning to start working on something and she's like, Colin, I need you to stay in this room with me. Do not leave me. I need you right here, right now. Right? So what she's trying to communicate is, Colin, you are my person. I love you. I respect you. You are the person that I want to be around right now. But do you know what I hear when that happens? I hear, Colin, I am the boss of you, and you're going to listen to me. You're going to stay in this room until I tell you that it's okay to leave. And do you know what happens when I feel that it comes across disrespectful, and I feel like I have to prove to myself and everyone else, she's not in charge of me. I'm my own person. She's not my boss. I can do what I want. And so this thing rises up in me and it starts that cycle, right? But all of this started because she loves me and she cares for me. She wants me. She respects me enough for me to be the person to speak into her life right now. And so do you see again how this is not about her heart being wrong? She just needs to communicate that in a different way. And so we're going to dive into that next week. We're going to deal with how to get out of this cycle, how to prevent this cycle. But for now, explore that. Be aware of that, right? Ask that question, why is my spouse responding the way that he or she is right now? Why do I feel like my walls went up right now? Did something happen that caused me to feel this way that my spouse said? And then this goes back to some of the CBT stuff, right? Why do I feel that? Could I perceive this a different way? So, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get into some of that next week. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Go ahead and subscribe up here. I've got my latest video right here. And this is Colin with Kingdom Culture Counseling. Thank you. I will see you next week.